Hello everybody and welcome back to The Lost Planeswalker. You're here with me, Jesse, The Lost Planeswalker, and today I'm going to talk about the Creative Energy Precon Upgrade Guide. This is a very cool deck, and we got a ton of new energy cards in Modern Horizons 3, and so I want to talk about some really cool cards I think you should add from Modern Horizons 3 specifically. We think we got 34 in total that can go in this deck, so there's some really neat stuff along with some other effects I think might be worthwhile in this deck. So starting out, the two commanders for this deck are Saita, Aetherflux Genius, and Kath, Famed Mechanist. Saita here is 1 blue, red, and a white legendary creature, human artificer with menace and haste. Whenever Saita attacks, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of up to 1 other target non-token creature you control. You get 2 energy, and at the beginning of the next end step, sack that creature unless you pay an amount of energy equal to its mana value. We can get in some really cool energy shenanigans where you're basically able to make copies of stuff, gain more energy from the copy, and then keep it around to do more with. Then we have Kath here, Famed Mechanist, same mana cost, 1 blue, red, and a white legendary creature, Dwarf Artificer, Fabricate 1, and then other non-token creatures you control have Fabricate 1, 2, tap, choose 1, populate, or proliferate. So Fabricate here is an interesting mechanic that says you can either have a creature with Fabricate enter the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter, or make a 1/1 servo creature token. So Kath here can make a ton of these tokens. If you can put a bunch of counters on them, you can just proliferate and make them even bigger. So we have two really distinct play strategies. I'm going to stick with the face commander for this deck, but I'm going to be building those other decks, building around those other cool mechanics that they decided to include. So let's check out those new cards real quick, and I'm going to run through them, and if you want to pause and check them out more, you can. So we have Ether Refinery, Aurora Shifter, Blaster Hulk, Conversion Apparatus, Filigree Racer, Hourglass of the Lost, Localized Destruction, Overclocked Electromancer, Razorfield Ripper, Salvation Colossus, Silverquill Lecturer, Sphinx of Revelation, and Stone Idol Generator. We get some really cool cards here, and honestly, you know, I was looking at cutting cards from this deck, and I just don't know enough about energy, if I'm being honest with you. I wanted to showcase some of these new cards because we've got some really cool new energy cards that they decided to include, and some other additions I think would be good, but I don't play enough energy really to know what's worthwhile to keep, what's not. You know, everything kind of looked pretty cool here. And now I want to go straight into talking about some new energy cards. So some new ones we received here. We got Ether Revolt, Ether Spike, and Guide of Souls. So Ether Revolt, 2 red enchantment with Revolt. As long as a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, if a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent, or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage +2 instead. Then whenever you get 1 or more energy, Ether Revolt deals that much damage to any target. So anytime you make energy, you're going to be dealing damage if a permanent left the battlefield. So first you got to have something leave. It can be just something as simple as a treasure token. But if you can achieve that, you're going to be able to deal massive damage with Ether Revolt. It's an enchantment. It's got pretty good staying power. So this is going to be very strong. Aether Spike, 1 in a blue instant. Choose target spell, you get 2 energy. Then you may pay any amount of energy, counter that spell, unless its controller pays 1 for each energy paid this way. Really nice, cheap counter spell that you can just pay more mana into and keep your opponents from being able to cast their stuff. And then Guide of Souls, single white creature, human cleric, with whenever another creature enters the battlefield under control, gain 1 life and get 1 energy. Then whenever you attack, you may pay 3 energy. When you do, put 2 +1/+1 counters and a flying counter on target attacking creature. It becomes an angel in addition to its other types. We got a lot of cards here that care about attacking and making energy that way, so this would be very good. Next up, we have Inspired Inventor, Phyrexian Ironworks, and Reiterating Bolt. Inspired Inventor is 2 in a white creature, human artificer, with when it enters, choose 1, you get 3 energy, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, or make a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. Honestly, if that 3 energy was a little bit different, it would be a very, very good card in a ton of other formats, but I think the 3 energy kind of locks it into this deck or subtype pretty strongly. I don't think putting a +1/+1 counter or making a servo is really going to work out anywhere else. Phyrexian Ironworks, 2 in a red artifact. Whenever you attack, you get an energy, and then you can pay 3 energy to create a 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Golem artifact creature token. Activate only as a sorcery. And then Reiterating Bolt, 1 in a red sorcery. Replicate, pay 3 energy. So whenever you cast a spell or copy it, you can pay its replicate costs X number of times, and you get that many copies. And then what Reiterating Bolt does is it deals 3 damage to any target, creature, or planeswalker. Reiterating Bolt deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Great way you could pump your energy into maybe removing a pesky creature that's pretty big on the board, and you don't have any other removal to do so. Next is Riddlegate Gargoyle, Suppression Ray, and Tune the Narrative. Riddlegate Gargoyle is 1 in a blue artifact creature gargoyle with flying, and whenever it enters, you get 3 energy, and whenever you attack, you may pay 2. When you do, target creature you control gains lifelink until end of turn. We don't have the biggest creatures in this deck, but we do have some nice sizable ones, and that would be very helpful. Suppression Ray, one of my favorites here. 3 hybrid white blue sorcery, tap all creatures target player controls. You may pay X energy, then choose up to X creatures tapped this way. Put a stun counter on each of them. This is very strong because stun counters can be proliferated, meaning you can basically tap down your opponent's board indefinitely. They're going to stay tapped for an additional turn because they got the stun counters on them. So this is very strong. And then Tune the Narrative, single blue instant, draw a card, and get 2 energy. In the last 3 cards that are new to this set, we have Volatile Stormdrake, Wheel of Potential, and Wrath of the Skies. So Volatile Stormdrake, 1 in a blue creature, Drake, with flying hexproof from activated abilities and triggered abilities, and when Volatile Stormdrake enters the battlefield, exchange control of Volatile Stormdrake and target creature your opponent's control. If you do, you get 4 energy. Then sack that creature unless you may pay an amount of energy equal to its mana value. This can be pretty versatile. You can use it to basically just get rid of something that's being very pesky on the board, or take control of it for yourself, and if you have enough energy, you get to keep it around. Wheel of Potential, 2 in a red sorcery, you get 3 energy. Then you may pay X energy. Each player may exile their hand and draw X cards, where X is 7 or more. You may play cards you own from exile this way until the end of your next turn. Kind of a Hail Mary type play where you're just going to try and pump a ton of mana and hope you get a bunch of stuff back. You know, being able to have that stuff for an additional turn is pretty strong, but if you just come up dry, it can be very bad, but I think that this deck will prove very powerful. And then Wrath of the Skies, X, white sorcery, you get X energy, then you may pay an amount of energy, destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment with mana value less than or equal to the amount of energy paid this way. Very strong, versatile board wipe that relies on energy rather than mana. So if you can build up a ton of energy, you can kind of do this maybe after combat and your board got wiped. Well, everybody else's boards are going to get wiped as well. So the other thing I thought would be really interesting to add to this deck is some Anthem effects, because we have a lot of small creatures that are okay, but they can just get so much better if they're a little bit bigger, and then we'll want to keep them around longer because they're good for blocking and attacking. So starting out, we have Felidar Retreat, Ironis, God of Victory, and Legion Initiative. Felidar Retreat is 3 and a white enchantment, landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under control, choose one, create a 2/2 white cat beast creature token, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn. Obviously here, we want the second ability. Being able to buff up all our creatures, giving them vigilance is very strong. Ironis, God of Victory, 2 red and a white enchantment. Legendary enchantment creature, God with indestructible. As long as your devotion to red and white is less than 7, Ironis isn't a creature. Creatures you control have menace, and prevent all damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures you control. It's just going to make keeping our creatures around so much better, and I really love this card. I think it would be a strong addition, but it is kind of pricey as well. Then we have Legion's Initiative. Red and a white enchantment. Red creatures get +1/+0. White creatures get +0/+1. Red and a white, exile this. Exile all creatures you control. At the beginning of the next combat, return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control, and those creatures gain haste until the end of turn. This is a great way to kind of protect all of your stuff on your board, and we're going to get all those ETBs again that are going to give us a ton of energy in the process. So the other 3 Anthem effects we have here: Retreat to Emeria, Vault 75 Middle School, and then War Leader's Call. So Retreat to Emeria is 3 and a white enchantment, landfall. Whenever land enters battlefield under control, choose one. Create a 1/1 white core ally creature token, or creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Very similar to Felidar Retreat here. Vault 75 Middle School, 2 white, Saga Point 1, exile all creatures with power 4 or greater. Then 2 and 3, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. We do have a couple of creatures that have 4 or greater power, but most likely we're not going to. So being able to exile basically all of our opponent's boards if they have big things, and then pump up our own is going to be really good. And then War Leader's Call, 1 red and a white enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+1, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, this deals 1 damage to each opponent. A very strong card out of Murder at Karlov Manor. It's going for like $7-8 here, so kind of pricey. You know, it's not too much, but you know, it's a lot. But it is pretty strong, and I think it's going to be good in this deck. And that's it, but I'd just like to say thank you so much for watching. And, you know, normally I like to cut some cards, but like I said earlier, I just don't play enough energy really to know what's worth cutting and what's worth keeping. But if you guys have any suggestions, I'd love to hear about in the comments down below. You know, there's probably some really obvious cards here if you've played a lot of energy decks that it just doesn't make sense to play these. They're not that good. But if you could comment that down below, I would love to see those. And in addition, if you would leave a like, share this video with a friend, and subscribe, that would mean the world to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Now today's Scryfall card of the day is Havoc Demon. A cry of pain as it enters this world, a chorus of screams as it leaves. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you later, Planeswalkers.